The horse dropped a fresh pile right onto the antique rug just as my son tried, for the third time that morning, to sell my land on speakerphone. I was holding a feed bucket, breathing in the steam of hot manure, while Big Red, the rooster, rasped a voiceless caw-caw-coo as if to seal the deal. Perfect timing. The crap was still steaming. The Wi-Fi lay half-chewed, and the city investors were already cuffing their trousers on my porch. But let me roll back to the moment when this whole beautiful, stinking story first started to smell. Maddie Jackson rose before dawn, the cool hill country air still blue-gray outside the kitchen window. She had waited 35 years to see this land with no one else's footsteps but her own, and she'd be hornswoggled before she let slick city shoes claim it without breaking a sweat. Clarence had dreamed the ranch in the hush between hospital night shifts, sketching barns on prescription pads. She had finally sold their Chicago condo 6 months after his funeral and driven south until the horizon caught fire at sunset. Now the porch smelled of cedar posts and promise. Yet an email from her son threatened to sour that perfume. Mom, the Dallas team's excited about the weekend. Big opportunity for everyone. You've earned ease. Let us handle the hard parts. Hard parts, she muttered, lacing her weathered boots. Outside, Buster the mule flicked an ear as if agreeing that hard parts never lived in conference rooms. Maddie spent the morning orchestrating what she privately called the Authenticity Tour. First, she led Midnight, Clarence's old quarter horse, right through the French doors and into the living room. The gelding snorted at the leather sofa, decided it was harmless, and began cropping the monstera plant that Darius had shipped from a boutique nursery in Austin. Perfect. Second, she hauled the router from its nook, coiled the cables, and locked everything inside Clarence's gun safe. Third, she rolled the mechanical bull, left by previous owners as a novelty, onto the front lawn, spray-painted a sign, "Earn your saddle," but her finest stroke stood on the porch rail. Big Red, a Rhode Island rooster with volume set to revival meeting loud. She shifted his coop clock to 4:30 a.m., ensuring the guests' first sunrise would rattle their molars. By midday, Maddie studied her to-do list, refill water troughs, hide extra phone chargers, hang the new daily schedule chalkboard in foyer. She printed it in elegant script so no one could claim illegibility. Zo 5, feed horses and llamas, Zo 5:45. Collect eggs, Zo 6.15, muck stalls, Zo 7:30, patch south fence barbed wire. The llamas, 2 rescue divas named Amethyst and Betty, already sprawled across driveway gravel, daring tires to roll closer. Good girls. Finally, she brewed chicory coffee, added a spoon of honey, and stood beneath the live oak canopy. In the silence, she heard Clarence's baritone chuckle. "Teach them, Maddie May. Let the land speak." She touched the silver locket at her neck and whispered, "Lesson plan starts tomorrow." The first car, a pearl-white SUV with dealership plates, crunched up the lane at 3 that afternoon. Sun glared off chrome rims. Behind them, a rented Sprinter van chugged, carrying associates Darius called the weekend crew. Maddie wiped dusty palms on jeans, schooling her smile. Darius stepped out first, patent loafers sinking into caliche dust. His linen blazer fluttered. Gold watch winked. "Mama, you look rustic." He leaned for air kiss. She pulled him into a real hug, noting the stiffness in his shoulder blades. 2 colleagues followed, Jessamine in spotless sneakers cradling DSLR, and Ty with drone case slung like briefcase. A third guest, Maple, scrolled on tablet verifying social sign-up counts for the Jackson Ranch weekend. Maddie welcomed them, motioning toward the porch. Betty the llama rose, blocking path, issuing a guttural hrumph. Ty halted. "Is it safe?" "Safer than interest rates," Maddie quipped. She clicked her tongue. Betty sashayed aside after spitting a neat arc onto Ty's suede shoes. Shock registered. Maddie merely said, "Initiation complete." Inside, Midnight lifted his head from the potted monstera and nickered hello. Jessamine gasped. Darius's jaw opened, closed. Maddie handed him a broom. He needed change of scenery. By supper, pinto beans, skillet cornbread, guests had learned to step over horse droppings and reload water bucket. Maddie watched quietly, noting whose complaints rose quickest. Darius's smile wilted each time Wi-Fi failed. Maple kept pacing circles, hunting non-existent signal bars. Jessamine tried photographing sunset, but shrieked when Big Red landed on railing to photobomb. Maddie ended day one by presenting each visitor a pair of leather gloves. Tomorrow, pre-dawn chores. Sunrise is pinker when you earn it. She switched off porch lights as whip-poor Wills tuned up. Somewhere inside, the router blinked unheard pleas from its prison. Outside, Big Red sharpened his crow. At 4:29 a.m., darkness sat thick as sorghum syrup. Inside the upscale guest rooms Darius had selected online, silk pillowcases cradled heads unready for rural percussion. The analog alarm Maddie mounted outside each door ticked once, then Big Red unleashed a banshee note that ricocheted through hallways. Jessamine screamed, Ty toppled suitcase. Maddie, already booted, called, "Rise and ride." She herded them onto veranda where dawn's first ribbon stained eastern horizon. "Partner up," she instructed. "One fills feed buckets, other hauls hay." Maple raised manicured hand. "Coffee first?" Maddie pointed to barn. "Beans brew better after work." Shock still lingered in their city bodies, but cold air and llama breath propelled them forward. Darius attempted delegation. "Ty, you and Jess, grab hay, I'll oversee." Maddie's eyebrow arched. "Oversee doesn't patch fences." She shoved post-hole digger into his hands. Blisters bloomed within minutes. The physicality stripped pretense quickly. Jessamine's white sneakers turned clay red, Ty's drone case repurposed as egg basket. Maple's tablet lay forgotten as she discovered the rhythmic satisfaction of mucking straw. Big Red strutted supervisory loops, letting loose commentary. By breakfast, grits flecked with cheddar, the guests devoured plates silently. Maddie poured chicory, watched understanding dawn in Darius's eyes sooner than sun, but his pride erected quick scaffold. "Mama, this is quaint. Yet overhead will eat your pension." He gestured around. "I only want security for you." She met his gaze. "Security lives in belonging, not balance sheets." Afternoon heat hovered. Maddie assigned them to weed rose beds, Clarence's pride, then led a trail ride. Midnight carried Darius, horse twitched whenever rider checked phone. Up ridge. Pink granite outcrops glowed. Maddie reined in. Clarence called this the healing view. She let silence deepen, the sort city seldom permits. When Darius finally spoke, voice softened. "I was 9 the last time Dad and I sat still together." Maddie's throat thickened. She simply patted Midnight's neck. Evening approached with sweet tea air. Maddie grilled catfish on mesquite. Jessie filmed golden smoke curling. She caught Maddie's eye. "Real ranch?" Maddie shrugged. "Truth hashtags itself." After dusk, they lounged under string lights. Ty asked why she'd moved alone. Maddie shared brief tale, Clarence's heart attack on CTA platform, how grief turns city sirens into needles. Here, cicadas carried memory gentler. Jessamine whispered she hadn't slept offline in 4 years. Moon rose. Phones dimmed. Before bed, Maddie unveiled final surprise. Mechanical bull spotlighted. She challenged Darius first. He protested, then climbed. Bull bucked. Linen pants tore, friends roared. He fell laughing, dust cloud rising like applause. Maddie helped him up. The land tosses everyone, she said. Question is, do you climb back better? Sunday sunlight fanned across the table set in dirt yard. Collard greens, sweet potato pie, brisket stew delivered by the Walkers, neighbors whose great-grandfather herded cattle up the Chisholm Trail. Their arrival in beat-up pickup brought Delta blues on radio, the notes weaving through oak leaves like incandescent thread. They hugged Maddie with familiarity, tipping hats to city visitors. Church ended. Congregation spilled, some on horseback, to potluck. The Walkers' teenage daughter demonstrated rope tricks. Maple filmed, forgetting corporate angle. Walker matriarch Miss Ina told stories of forgotten black cowboys. Jessamine's camera now pointed away from aesthetics and toward wrinkles mapping history. Mid-afternoon, Maddie asked for attention. She unfolded documents. Living trust, conservation easement, binding ranch from sale or subdivision. Clarence and I wrote this so dust wouldn't settle on dreams, she explained. The land is a teacher, not an asset. Silence thickened. Darius's cheeks flushed, but he remained still. She touched his shoulder. You're welcome here as student, partner, or guest, but not broker. Tension crackled until Big Red crowed, comedic timing splitting atmosphere. Laughter burst, pressure released. Darius inhaled. Then exhaled defeat, or maybe relief. I need a walk, he said, heading toward Mesquite Line. Jessamine and Ty offered dishwashing hands. Maple discussed grant options with Walker Patriarch. Community swirled around truth now spoken. At dusk, Darius returned, dust on yellow sneakers. He approached Maddie on porch. I tried making life safe with commissions and condos. Maybe safety is learning which soil can hold you. Maddie's eyes prickled. She handed him a battered leather diary, Clarence's ranch notes. Start here. The rest earns itself. Night deepened. Stars canvassed sky unblurred by city glare. Guests slept heavy, routers still silent. Maddie rocked on porch, moon painting fence rails silver. She sensed Clarence beside her, murmuring approval. In barn, midnight stomped content. In coop, big red loaded lungs for tomorrow's lesson. And inside the house, tucked under city-tired arms, lay first seeds of understanding ready for dawn's work. When pink skies rise over yellow dust and truth, for those willing, crows louder than fear. The Greyhound station in Pueblo reeked of antiseptic and stale cinnamon buns, an aroma that reminded Darius Jackson of every sales conference layover he had ever hated. Yet this morning, wearing scuffed boots he'd borrowed from a ranch hand who found his yellow sneakers hilarious, Darius felt strangely blank rather than annoyed. He had fled his mother's hill country ranch 2 weeks earlier, believing righteous indignation would buoy him. Instead, the anger leaked out somewhere around Wichita Falls and left an emptiness that rattled louder than the bus wheels. The volunteer coordinator from Sangre de Cristo Equine Recovery Center met him in a faded Silverado held together by bumper stickers. Horses heal trauma, respect water rights, black cowboys ride too. Her name was Cora Valentine, Vietnam-era nurse with a handshake like barbed wire wrapped in velvet. She eyed Darius's linen duffel and raised an eyebrow. Real luggage gets manure on it. You ready? He almost quipped back, but something in her granite grin warned him off. He nodded, climbed in. During the 20-minute drive across scrubland, Cora delivered orientation in shotgun bursts. Stalls to muck, hay to pitch, water lines to repair before frost. Our vets wrestle nightmares, she said, tapping steering wheel. We don't need visitors chasing Instagram. Darius swallowed. The hill country déjà vu stung. He promised he was here to work. The promise sounded thin even to him. They crested a hill. The small facility spread below. 5 barns, a round pen, and a weather-stained arena ringed by mountains the color of bruised plums. It was nothing like the polished development brochures he sold, yet its rough geometry tugged at him. As they parked, 3 volunteers led gentle geldings toward turnout. One rider, face half hidden by beard, saluted while dismounting stiffly. Cora whispered, "Staff Sergeant Leo Morgan lost 2 friends to a flashback highway crash. Horses keep him forward looking." Within an hour, Darius found himself ankle deep in straw, pitchfork blistering his software-smooth palms. Each stab unearthed ammonia sting. Each heave worked shoulders unused except by golf swings. Leo, assigned as mentor, demonstrated efficient wrist flicks that launched manure into barrow like basketball free throws. "City McMansion boy, huh?" he asked, not cruelly. Darius admitted real estate pedigree. Leo grunted. "Manure sells houses too, just scented difference." A chuckle rasped between them, tension loosened. Lunch break came with chili ladled from dented pot. Volunteers swapped war stories, some literal, some corporate. When Darius explained he'd tried to persuade his mother to liquidate a ranch, silence fell. Finally, Leo said, "Land is sobriety coin for folks like your mom. Take it away, relapse of grief hits." The words pierced deeper than any boardroom insult. After lunch, Cora assigned gate repair along creek fencing. Darius hammered nails while Leo tightened wires. Mountain wind tasted of sage. Conversation drifted. Leo spoke of flashbacks like holes in film reel repaired by horse hearts. He asked why Darius really came. Pride tempted lies, but the land's honest vastness stripped pretense. Darius confessed jealousy of siblings who found purpose in craft, while he found only commissions. "I sell futures I never stay long enough to witness," he admitted. Leo nodded. "Try witnessing muck, it sticks around." That evening, Darius emailed his mother short note. Day 1, learn difference between hay and straw. Palms on fire. Horses don't care about sales quotas. More later, D. He hesitated, then added, "P.S. Is Big Red still terrorizing sunrises?" He hit send before courage failed. Back in Texas, Maddie read the email while seated on porch swing, dusk painting the pasture rosy. She smiled at the hay straw confession, but the postscript about Big Red tightened her chest. The rooster had fallen off perch 2 nights ago, wheeze rattling his proud chest. Dr. Amani's prognosis, respiratory infection worsened by record heat, recovery uncertain. Maddie had spilled a few tears into the rosemary patch, then steeled herself. Animals aged. Land required acceptance. She typed reply. Big Red lost volume but not attitude. Vets treating him. Ranch work waiting if your palms survive. She signed love, mom. No guilt dagger, no financial jab. Then she shut laptop. Stars were coming on like freckles across the sleepy face. The next days blurred for Darius into rhythm of feed, muck, patch, repeat. At first he counted minutes until break. By Thursday he noticed the clock less. Blisters calloused, back ached, but ache felt earned. He watched group session where Leo led mare in circle, veteran riders closing eyes to sync breath with hoofbeats. One rider, PTSD tremor easing, murmured steady ground like a mantra. Darius realized none of his closings had ever steadied anyone's ground. That night, Cora found him journaling unfinished email drafts. She offered flask of chicory coffee laced with something smoky. "Write honest, or lift more hay," she advised. He swallowed pride with coffee and wrote, "Mom, been here a week. Learned shovel is better teacher than podcast. I was angry you locked the land away, but now I see how soil answers back. I want to do one thing that doesn't involve signatures. Not asking forgiveness yet, just telling truth." He pressed send, heart thumping like hooves. Maddie's reply arrived next sunrise. "Truth is forgiveness's saddle. Keep tightening the cinch." Short, but something in it unclogged an artery of regret. Meanwhile, Big Red declined. Despite antibiotics, he could barely croak. Maddie nursed him beneath kitchen heat lamp, but memory of Clarence's last ICU night haunted her. She feared telling Darius losing the ranch sentinel could decouple his tentative humility. By month's end, Cora promoted Darius to night check duty. Alone in barn loft, he listened to horses chew hay, wind caress tin roof. He thought of hill country dawns he'd missed while designing lifestyle brochures. He drafted new letter, Mom. Sirens of commissions still howl, but hoofbeats beat steadier. If Big Red needs vet advice, this center has poultry specialist. I'll come assist if you'll have me. He reread, clicked send, crossing threshold. November eased across hill country like quilt dropped over restless sleeper. Maddie prepped guest bedroom, though she hadn't committed aloud. She prayed on porch, Lord, let humility grow faster than mold on city shoes. Email beeped, Darius requesting Thanksgiving visit, no entourage, only himself. Condition, he works morning feed, she accepted. 2 days before holiday, Dr. Amani arrived with meds. Big Red perched on her arm, feathers dull, eyes fighting. When Darius drove up in dusty pickup, surprise early, he glimpsed vet's syringe and thought too late. Maddie watched fear crease his brow. This time he didn't hide it. He marched forward. Show me dosage, he told Amani. They collaborated, flushing sinuses, massaging crop. That night, Big Red slept in crate inside Darius's room, Rooster's faint coos timed with his caretaker's breaths. Thanksgiving dawn, Big Red crowed, a rusty hinge but audible. Darius laughed, tears on cheek. He slipped into barn where Maddie already forked hay. She handed him broom. Schedule hasn't changed. They worked side by side, silence eventually melting into conversation. Darius spoke of Leo, of nights when horse warmth muffled explosions only he heard. Maddie shared fear of losing ranch rhythm to loneliness. Sunrise flushed coral, they rested on fence rail. Later, at dinner table set under oak, neighbors gathered. Sweet potato pie cooled beside collards. Darius presented a second pie, his attempt at Grandma Essie's recipe, crust uneven but fragrant. He toasted, to land that teaches louder than Wi-Fi. Laughter clinked mason jars. Maddie stood, lifted linen napkin. Underneath lay Clarence's old branding iron, initials CJ intertwined. Brand means responsibility, she said, handing it to Darius. If you truly want place here, earn those letters. He gripped iron handle, its weight real but lighter than guilt he'd hauled. Night settled with Coyote's distant hymn. Big Red dozed in coop. His crow might never regain glory, but presence mattered. Maddie rocked on porch. Darius folded blankets for dawn chores. For first time since Clarence's passing, the house's silence felt shared. Inside, Maddie penned archive entry. Truth arrived with blisters and a pie. The land hasn't forgiven yet. It waits. But tonight we all breathe the same dust. She signed page, closed journal, and let sleep carry her to dreams where sunrise work smelled of hay and possibility. The alarm rang at 4:30 a.m. Sharp, though it was hardly necessary. Darius had been awake since 3, lying on the pallet in the tack room and debating whether gratitude was a feeling or a skill set. The ranch breathed around him. Horses shifting, owls finishing their night watch, the faint failing mutter of Big Red rehearsing a dawn that would not wait for his full recovery. Outside, a northerly wind rattled dried mesquite pods, peppering the tin roof in arrhythmic taps. Somewhere down the breezeway, Maddie was already moving, her boot heels clicking a tempo that had become the ranch's unofficial metronome. He shivered into jeans still crusted with yesterday's dust, pulled on borrowed work gloves, and stepped into the alley just as the overhead lights blinked awake. Maddie emerged from the feed room with 2 galvanized buckets rocking against her thighs. She did not greet him with words, only a curt nod, as though conversation had to be earned with the first sweat of the day. He took one of the buckets without asking. The handle bit the fresh blisters on his palm, but he kept pace beside her. They worked in silence, distributing grain to Midnight, Blossom, and stubborn old Grace, who pinned her ears before allowing Darius within striking distance. Maddie clicked her tongue, and the mare lowered her head, grudgingly conceding space. Darius exhaled. It was the 5th morning since he'd returned, and he still felt as if each horse and each moment were studying him for sincerity. After feeding came water checks, then the messy intimacy of mucking. Maddie's motions were methodical, almost meditative. Pitch, lift, shake, drop. She had taught him to angle the fork so the clean shaving sifted back through tines, saving both time and bedding. He tried to emulate, but his fork clanged against the stall wall, sending a protest through his wrists. She said nothing, yet the small flinch in her shoulders told him the clang fractured more than morning quiet. It cracked fragile trust. When stalls were finished, Maddie led him to the chicken coop. Big Red tottered out, feathers dull but eyes still hot with imperious light. He attempted a crow, a cracked, raspy wheeze that sounded like a record scratched past redemption. Darius knelt, gingerly stroking the rooster's comb. "Not today, old man. Save your voice for Christmas," he whispered, surprised by gentleness in his own tone. From corner of his eye, he sensed Maddie pause, watching, then continue gathering eggs. By sunrise, they stood outside the barn, light spilling molten gold across the hill country hills. The usual pinks were washed out by a cool front. The air tasted of pecan smoke from neighboring ranch fires readying for holiday feasts. Maddie broke silence first. "Neighbors'll start arriving around noon. Potlucks at 2. Church service at 10 if your heart's inclined." Darius nodded, wiping forehead. "I'll be there." She studied him, perhaps measuring the sincerity of 3 words. Then she handed him a list of tasks. Refilling troughs, stringing fairy lights on the yoke behind the house, and, most daunting, baking a sweet potato pie using Grandma Essie's faded index card. He swallowed. "You trust me with her recipe?" Maddie's face softened in the smallest increment. Pie tastes better when hands shake a little. Reminds the crust not to get too proud. She turned toward the house, leaving him clutching the card as if it were a deed. The kitchen smelled like nostalgia and fear when he began peeling sweet potatoes. He washed them with care, noticing the russet skin matched the dust still staining his cuffs. The recipe called for cane syrup, evaporated milk, cinnamon measured in pinches, and a final line written in Grandma Essie's looping script, "Pray while it bakes." He chuckled, imagining corporate chefs adding that to glossy cookbooks. As potatoes softened in boiling water, he prepared crust. His first attempt produced a dough more like spackle. He sighed, remembering sales calls where he pivoted from failure by improvising benefits. But crust was not a spreadsheet. It did not accept rhetorical adjustments. He started over, this time using chilled butter, coaxing crumbs with fingertips until they behaved. Dough rolled under pin, uneven but serviceable. When he poured orange filling into crust, the color reminded him of Chicago sunsets reflected on glass towers, brief, almost artificial. But the smell, earthy and sweet, grounded him here. Pie slid into oven at 350 degrees. He set timer, then truly noticed the quiet house. His phone, buried atop armoire per ranch rules, did not buzz. No deals pending, no group texts. Only the tick of the old analog wall clock inherited from Clarence's hospital office, its hands permanently smelling of antiseptic and gum. He drifted to porch, inhaling crisp November wind. Over the paddock, he saw the Walker couple arriving in their dented truck, blues guitar spilling through open windows. Ty, Jessamine, and Maple had not returned since the first weekend. Their absence left a quieter energy, one that suited the place. Darius wondered whether the city team would even recognize him now. A man with straw in hair and flour on shirt. Maddie emerged from barn, wiping hands on apron. She approached, gaze sliding to his flour-specked shirt front. "Crust still breathing?" He nodded. She sat on swing, wood groaning under shared weight. They watched walkers offload pans of collards, trays of brisket, a tureen of black-eyed pea salad. Silence hovered companionably until Darius ventured, "Mom, why sweet potato pie? We could buy pumpkin." Maddie smiled at Horizon. "Pumpkins for store shelves, sweet potatoes from soil that remembers storms. Different kind of sweetness." The timer beeped through open kitchen window. He rose, heart jittering, and retrieved pie. The crust was lopsided. Filling had bubbled a small crater near center. Yet aroma flooded the room with Grandma Essie's Sunday afternoons. He set pie on cooling rack, unsure whether imperfections disqualified it. When he turned, Maddie stood in doorway, arms folded. She inhaled deeply. "Smells like someone prayed." Tears prickled edges of Darius's vision. He swallowed, shrugged. "I muttered a bit." She stepped forward, adjusted crooked potholder, and met his eyes. "Good. Mutters count." At 10, they attended the tiny AME church down the county road. Hymns boomed, floorboards vibrated. Darius, who had avoided choirs for decades, felt baritone notes bloom inside chest. Pastor Jenkins preached about fields that become treasure when plowed in grief. Maddie's shoulders trembled. He squeezed her hand. Back at ranch, neighbors filled yard. Children darted under oak, garlanded with string lights he'd hung. Leo and Cora had driven from Colorado on spontaneous road trip. Seeing them, gratitude swelled like barn swallows in updraft. They hugged, smelling of diesel and sage. Tables groaned with potluck dishes. Maddie ceremoniously placed sweet potato pie at center. Conversations turned to rain's forecast for December, price of hay, and rumor of a new highway bypass that might skirt hill country. Darius listened more than spoke, absorbing cadence of people rooted deeper than property lines. When plates emptied, Miss Ina Walker tapped spoon to pie tin, calling for thanks. Maddie cleared throat, prepared to speak, but eyes drifted to Darius. She nodded subtly. Heart pounding, he stood. Words came halting at first. "I used to measure value in closing percentages, but these weeks taught me land is patient truth. It will expose shortcuts and reward vows." He glanced at Maddie. "This pie is apology and offering, imperfect crust, but honest dough." He placed carving knife down and stepped aside. Forks clicked. Compliments hummed. Maddie's eyes shone, unshed tears mixing with pride. The sun dipped, painting sky coral. That night after dishes, they built small fire beyond barn. Neighbors departed. The ranch slipped into cricket song. Maddie and Darius sat on logs. Sparks lifted, mimicking fireflies. He handed her ledger. A breakdown of volunteer labor, feed costs, and solar savings he'd calculated. Not to convince sale, but to show commitment. "I want to learn operations, not manage from Dallas," he said, "if you'll teach me." She traced numbers with finger, then looked at him. Firelight carved shadows on her cheeks. "We start tomorrow before dawn," she answered. Their silence not awkward now, just unfinished conversation with room to grow. Big Red coughed hoarse crow from coop. Darius smiled, still louder than spreadsheets. Maddie laughed, sound rolling into star-stitched dark. Inside, she wrote an archive. "Crust broke, crust held. The boy's voice has changed key. Truth may yet find a hymn." She closed journal. In the quiet that followed, Hearts beat in tandem with distant hoof shuffle, and dawn waited just beyond hills, ready to paint soil new shades of possibility. Wind shifted overnight, bringing colder air across the hill country, yet the ranch felt warm by unspoken agreements forged near the fire. The sky purpled at 5 a.m. Darius swung doors of tack room, breathing deep the mix of saddle soap and sweet hay, a scent he now associated less with labor and more with belonging. Maddie arrived moments later, coffee thermos steaming. She handed him his own mug. Careful, strong enough to regrow hair. He grinned, running hand over buzz cut. First task, repairing south pasture fence sagging where last month's bucking bull trial had tested posts. Clarence's brand CJ had once sizzled on that bull's hide. Its memory still shimmered in Darius's pocket, talisman heavy as promise. They loaded truck with cedar posts, wire, and a yellow toolbox stamped "Leave it better." As they bounced down rutted lane, Maddie recited upcoming chores. Rotate horses to winter pasture, check roof leaks, clean well filter before first freeze. Darius took mental notes, amazed by complexity beneath surface calm. At fence line, they worked side by side, rhythm emerging. She hammered staples. He leveraged T-post driver. Frost-silvered grass crunched beneath boots. Conversation meandered. Clarence's favorite cowboy poems, The Chicago Winter of '79, When Pipes Burst. Maddie's surprise at finding strength in solitude. Darius confessed guilt about rarely visiting during Clarence's illness. Maddie paused, hammer midair. Guilt's like barbed wire. You can cling, bleed, or cut it down. She drove Staple home, finality ringing across pasture. By noon, they returned to main barn. Dr. Amani's truck idled out front, tailgate down, supplies for worming horses. She greeted them with a warm grin, glancing at Darius's greenhorn calluses. Hands healing? He blushed, nodded. Together, they led each horse through breezeway, administering paste. When it came to Grace, mare tossed head, eyes white. Darius steadied her, murmuring nonsense until she accepted dose. Amani met his gaze, approval flickering. Spark of something more? Maybe, but ranch air discouraged rush. Later, Maddie assigned him to update ledger entries for feed deliveries. In office, he thumbed computer keys, realizing numbers now represented living mouths, not abstract units. Mid-entry, email pinged, corporate VP reminding him of stellar December condo inventory. He stared at screen, finger hovering over reply. Instead, he clicked compose to HR. Taking unpaid leave through Q1. Personal agricultural training. He hit send. Relief washed in. Cool and frightening. Evening chores complete, Darius found Maddie on porch polishing Clarence's old spurs. He sat beside, silence comfortable. She suddenly asked, "Why sell something just as value rises?" He hesitated, searching honesty. "Fear," he admitted. "City deals vanish if not flipped fast. I thought ranch would crumble without investor money." She turned spur, studying clean metal. Steady upkeep beats quick cash. He nodded, absorbing lesson deeper than spreadsheets. That night's supper was leftover potluck layered into cast iron skillet, flavors mingling. After dishes, Maddie unfolded faded schedule Clarence once sketched. Calf roping clinics, trail ride fundraisers, church choir campouts. He always planned to share land widely, she said. I kept it quiet, grieving. Maybe time to open gates again. Darius tapped paper. We can organize events, make revenue while serving community. She raised brow. We? He swallowed. If apprenticeship's still open. Maddie considered, then leaned back. You'll start by shadowing Walker family tomorrow at cattle auction. Learn prices before preaching strategy. He saluted jokingly. She laughed. Agreement sealed. At midnight, Big Red erupted into surprise, full-throated crow that startled coyotes into silence. Darius and Maddie peered from windows, eyes meeting with shared wonder. Perhaps Rooster recovered. Perhaps Miracle just timed for new chapter. Either way, dawn promised tests. Auction day dawned dusty gold. Darius rode shotgun and Walker pickup, Miss Ina schooling him on live weight prices, quality grading, and handshake ethics. The auction barn smelled of adrenaline and feed. He tracked bids, scribbling numbers, witnessing ranchers balancing passion and prudence. Back home, he debriefed Maddie, excitement radiating. We could host small stock show here, invite 4-H kids, showcase black cowboy heritage. She smiled slowly. Present plan after you find sponsorship. Challenge accepted. Evenings, he practiced roping dummy steer, laughter echoing. Maddie watched from porch, hearing echoes of Clarence teaching teenage Darius baseball swings. But roping demanded humility. Rope missed, loop collapsed. He persisted. One crisp morning, Dr. Amani arrived early, leading university vet students for field workshop. She enlisted Darius to demonstrate halter fitting. Under her watch, he explained pressure points, noticing sparks in her dark eyes. Students clapped. Amani whispered, "From realtor to wrangler in 6 weeks." He grinned. Embers glowed. Thanksgiving circled back memory each time he prepared sweet potato pies for neighbor deliveries. Flour now seasoned his laughter, crust edges still imperfect but taste anchored. Maddie declared recipe officially passed down. Late December cold front swept across state, dropping temperatures near freezing. Darius and Maddie blanketed horses, heat-taped pipes, reinforced chicken coop. At dusk, power flickered. They lit lanterns, sharing chili by fireplace. Maddie recounted first Chicago apartment blackout, Clarence playing harmonica to calm toddlers. Eventually, Darius asked the question he had rehearsed. "Mom, did Dad regret we moved north?" She stared at Embers. "Regrets are seeds he planted but also pruned. Chicago funded this ranch dream." She met his gaze. "I regret not bringing you sooner." He shook head. Maybe timing needed grief and grown-up mistakes. Snow, rare, fell overnight, dusting cacti white. Maddie and Darius led horses out to sniff Silent Miracle. Big Red crowed triumph. Darius laughed, breath fogging. He thought of condo showings scheduled next week, ones he'd declined. Snowflakes landed on brand iron in his pocket, melting fast but cold enough to remind him commitment required heat. That evening, he wrote letter to corporate boss. Resignation. He included donation pledge equal to last commission, earmarked for Sangre de Cristo program. He printed, sealed, left envelope on porch for next day's mail. He then drafted proposal for apprenticeship contract with Maddie, bulleting responsibilities, rotation schedule, profit-sharing formula, directed toward ranch upkeep and community events. He slipped document under her study door. Maddie found it at dawn. She read, tears glistening. She walked outside, brand iron in hand, and placed it on breakfast table in front of him, handle facing. "Sign with fire," she said. They heated iron, pressed CJ mark onto new wooden sign. Jackson and Son Heritage Ranch. Smoke curled, initials glowed. Darius's throat tightened. Heat, pride, home. That night, Maddie logged archive. "Today, I branded not wood but lineage. Snow melted, leaving water for seeds. Tomorrow's lessons will require more tools, but at last we hold them together." She closed journal, listened to Big Red crow at quarter moon. Truth tasted less bitter now, like sweet potato pie cooled just right. January ushered a rare Texas blizzard, searing wind churning whiteout over hill country ridges. At 2 a.m., Maddie's landline erupted. Walker Ranch reporting livestock distress, phone service patchy. Darius threw on insulated coveralls before she finished the plea. They loaded sleds fashioned from plastic feed tubs, stacked alfalfa, and hitched Blossom to lead rope. Snowdrifts knee-deep forced slower travel. Wind burned cheeks raw. Maddie guided path by fence posts. Darius pulled sled. Halfway across pasture, Blossom balked, nostrils flaring. Shadows revealed Grace down, body trembling, colic. Dr. Amani answered emergency call. ETA 40 minutes pinned against impassable roads. They had to stabilize mare. Maddie knelt, checking gut sounds, scarce. She directed Darius to jog Grace, but snow impeded. He improvised, attaching lunge line, urging mare to follow loop within wind-cut corridor. His lungs seared, thighs ablaze, but after 15 minutes, rumble in belly returned faintly. Grace's eyes lost wild sheen. Amani arrived on snow-chain truck, administered pain relief electrolyte tube. She praised their intervention. Darius leaned against stall wall, heart banging, but exhilaration thrummed beneath fatigue. When dawn cracked, pasture glittered, they'd saved mare, Walker cattle fed. In kitchen, Maddie handed Darius mug of hot cocoa, eyes proud. "You did what Clarence would have," she said softly. He sipped, tears salting chocolate. Outside, Big Red attempted crow, voice strong against crystalline air. Weeks passed. Snow melted into wildflower promise. Darius enrolled in online agricultural management course. Maddie teased him about homework. Evenings they planned spring barn wedding. Darius had asked a Manny beneath live oak blossoms, offering lasso instead of ring until jeweler finished. She said yes, laughter echoing horse knickers. Wedding day arrived mild, blue bonnets carpeting fields. Friends, neighbors, sangre volunteers gathered in restored barn draped with string lights and feed sack bunting. Bales formed pews, mechanical bull, scrubbed and strung with flowers, served as photo booth. Pastor Jenkins officiated, blues band slid gospel riffs. As vows exchanged, Big Red crowed, applause from coop. Reception potluck overflowed, brisket, collards, cornbread, sweet potato pies baked by Darius and Maddie side by side. Children wore shirts reading Black Cowboy Heritage. At sunset, they released sky lanterns. One snagged on mechanical bull, sparking laughter and reminder to keep feet on ground. Epilogue arrived that December when baby Elijah Clarence Jackson greeted world, lungs strong. Christmas Eve, family and friends circled fireplace. Maddie rocked grandchild, Darius and Amani trading sleepy smiles. Walker harmonica sighing blues. Big Red, now elder statesman, rested on roost, feathers trimmed silver. Maddie whispered to infant, "Land will teach you, little man." She felt Clarence's presence like warm saddle blanket, smelled sweet potato pie cooling, heard wind rustle oak leaves. Later, she wrote final archive entry of volume. Roots deepen, branches bloom, dust earned, not bought, anchors hearts. The rooster's crow threads through generations, reminding dawn whom it belongs to. She closed book, kissed grandson's soft head, and stepped onto porch where stars glittered above ridge. Breeze carried faint hoofbeats from pasture, steady cadence promising tomorrow's chores, tomorrow's truths. She smiled, breathing in hill country night, content that legacy now rode multiple hands steady on reins, each willing to rise before dawn and meet a rooster, unafraid to teach. The first sign of trouble arrived on a postcard sky. At 4:30 on a Friday dawn in late January, Maddie Jackson stepped onto the porch, expecting her usual quilt of constellations, only to find Orion fading behind a wall of low, quick-moving clouds the color of pewter. The wind carried a metallic tang, as if a coin had been rubbed against the horizon. Old ranchers called it knife air, weather that sliced through jackets and routines alike. Maddie's knees twinged. Arthritic barometer, confirming what the NOAA alerts on her rarely checked phone would shout an hour later. Arctic outbreak, blizzard warnings, hard freeze. She brewed chicory and rapped on Darius's door. He emerged half-dressed, eyes still foggy from a late-night online lecture he'd streamed about rotational grazing. Forecast changed, she said. Changed like a mare in heat, he muttered, shrugging on insulated Carhartts. They hurried outside, breath ghosting in twin plumes. Big Red tried to crow, but the wind consumed his note. Instead, he fluffed his feathers and glared as if the elements had insulted his authority. By 7, the Walker's pickup turned up the drive covered in a skin of frost, exhaust blowing white. Miss Ina jumped down, boots crunching like broken pottery. Meteorologist on AM radio says snow by noon, she called. You two ready for a Yankee Christmas remake? Maddie forced a grin. She remembered Chicago blizzards all too well, but hill country infrastructure was a different beast entirely. Fences could ice, water lines crack, and horses unaccustomed to sleet might colic from stall confinement. They executed the winter checklist Clarence had drafted years earlier but never actually used. Drain hoses, wrap faucets, hang heat lamps in coop, spread fresh bedding. Blossom and Midnight were blanketed. Grace, whose brush with colic at Thanksgiving had left everyone jumpy, paced, nostrils flaring. Dr. Amani texted from Austin, promising to beat the front in her vet truck, but warning that highways might close by dusk. By 10, the sky surrendered its last pale blue and snow fell in dry, papery flakes that landed on Darius's eyelashes like questions. He and Maddie haltered each horse to lead them into the barn. Grace refused, planting hooves. The wind sharpened to a howl. Tumbleweed spun across the yard as though the plains were fleeing north. Darius switched tactics, turned Grace in tight circles until momentum guided her forward. Like city negotiations, he murmured, coaxing rather than forcing. Inside the barn, they distributed alfalfa to encourage heat-producing digestion. Leo Morgan and 2 Sangre de Cristo volunteers appeared without fanfare, having driven overnight from Colorado with a trailer of grass hay. They'd heard freeze warnings and decided that family comes before mileage. They brought heavy wool blankets stamped U.S. Cavalry Surplus. The sight made Darius grin, healing loops connecting. By noon, the blizzard proper marched in, flakes heavier now, wind gusting above 40, visibility dropping every minute. Power flickered. Maddie and Leo fired up the diesel generator Clarence had insisted on buying at an estate sale. Its roar comforted like an old dog's snore. An hour later, Walker patriarch Henry barreled into yard on his tractor, pulling 2 feed tubs retrofitted into sleds. Cattle on our South 40 spooked, fences sagging, need extra hay and maybe a hand. Maddie glanced at Leo, then at Darius. Unspoken understanding. You answer neighbors like you answer prayer immediately. She nodded. Take Blossom, she pulls straight. They harnessed Blossom to sled, loaded 60 bales. Snow scoured their faces, stinging like hot cinders in reverse. Maddie insisted on riding shotgun despite Darius's protest. Clarence had once told her leadership sometimes means sharing risk, so she climbed onto sled's front bale, coat flapping. Darius walked at Blossom's head, guiding her between drifts. Leo followed on ATV with extra fuel. Halfway across Walker pasture, wind changed direction and visibility dropped to arm's length. Suddenly Blossom balked, ears flat. In the whiteout stood a shape, Grace, whitish blur against snow, having kicked free of her stall latch and charged through half-latched barn doors. She sniffed Darius's pocket earlier when he slipped apple bits there. Maybe scent had pulled her. Or maybe panic chased her into open threat of frost. She trembled, sides heaving. Maddie's mind raced. Sweat plus plunging temps equals hypothermia. She'd need movement. But Walker's cattle lowed beyond ridge, missing hay. Split decision time, nothing new to ranchers, yet always terrifying. Maddie ordered Leo to continue sled to cattle while she and Darius coaxed Grace home. Leo revved ATV, disappearing in curtain of white. Darius took lead rope from his pocket. Grace blew steam but allowed halter. Snow caked her fetlocks. Ice crystals formed a crown on her forelock. Each step home was push against invisible wall. Drifts swallowed their shins. Maddie's hat flew, cold bit scalp. Grace stumbled. Darius slung his arm beneath her neck, murmuring litanies learned from Leo. Slow breath, steady ground. After 40 bone-numbing minutes, the barn emerged like a dark ship in fog. Generator hummed valiantly. Inside, Dr. Amani had arrived and was warming IV fluids in microwave powered by generator. She hustled over, checking Grace's vitals, nodding approval. Watching Darius rub the mare's legs with burlap towels, she mouthed to Maddie, "He's a keeper." Grace stabilized, but new crisis replaced old. The generator sputtered. Diesel line clogged by gelled fuel. Lights dimmed. Without heat lamps, coop chickens could freeze and pipes in bunkhouse might burst. Darius crawled under metal casing, fingers numb, clearing gel with wire Maddie fed him. It worked. Lights returned, applause of relief from barn occupants, both human and animal. At dusk, Leo and Henry returned, hay delivered, cattle calmed. Snow still raged, but chores eased into vigilance mode. Hourly checks, thawed water buckets, generator fuel rotation. Maddie retreated to kitchen to brew chili rich with cumin. The smell thawed spirits faster than propane heaters. During supper around tack room table, Leo told a story of Afghanistan dust storms so fierce they scoured skin off helicopter rotors. Resilience, he claimed, is just breath plus stubbornness. Darius countered with tale of Chicago closing deal during polar vortex, only to learn warmth of quick money evaporates quicker than furnace heat. Stories flowed, laughter louder than wind. Later, Maddie and Darius stood at coop, verifying chickens roosted tight. Big Red, perched high, managed a rasping syllable of defiance. Snow swirled in the flashlight beam like thrown diamonds. Maddie squeezed Darius's arm. "Your daddy would have been proud." He shook head. "He'd be prouder tomorrow when we still show up." They trudged to house, generator still rumbling. Blizzard roared, but inside the legacy felt louder. Blizzard Day 2 greeted the ranch with an eerie, muted hush. The storm's eye, a deceptive pause where snowdrifts glittered under weak sun like a field of quartz. They had survived the night without losing livestock, pipes, or power, but muscles screamed in solidarity every time Maddie or Darius moved. Coffee tasted like victory seasoned with exhaustion. To their west, Walker Ranch's windmill tower peaked above drifts at unnatural angle. Henry radioed. Brace wire snapped. If tower fell, their only pump for cattle troughs might shatter. Darius volunteered to help. Maddie hesitated, then nodded. Leadership sometimes means letting go. He packed toolbox, rope, spare braces. He and Leo snowshoed across crusted drifts, each step a wager with hidden depth. Midfield, Leo sank to thigh. Darius hauled him out using rope looped around spurweed. They laughed at relief, breath fogging silver. At windmill base, they found metal legs bent, guy wire flapping. Darius climbed ladder warily, wind slicing through parka. Hammering new bracket to anchor plate, he felt dread. Boardrooms had safety rails. Here, misswing could break both pump and body. He recalled Maddie's mantra, "Trust slow," and tapped nails with patience rather than force. Wind shrieked, but bracket held. They tightened guy wire, tower stabilized. Back home, Maddie and Amani tended Grace, now bright-eyed but stiff. Amani taught joint mobility stretches. Maddie mirrored joints popping in protest. Ranch medicine works on people too, Amani joked. Afternoon sky darkened. Second wave of snow approached. Maddie counted generator fuel. 1 day left. Darius suggested siphoning diesel from idle tractors. Maddie agreed. They extracted 14 gallons, enough cushion. In bunkhouse, Sangre volunteers entertained children from neighboring ranches stranded by impassable roads, improvised lariat lessons, carved soap horses. Darius watched. Mind-weaving business plan. Winter ranch camps for at-risk teens. Therapy disguised as chores. He scribbled notes. Excitement stealing fatigue's thunder. That night during shift change, Maddie found Darius at barn office drafting spreadsheets by lantern. She scanned column headings, recognizing clarity, not exploitation. I want profit to fund scholarship for Walker granddaughter's veterinary school, he explained. Maddie's eyes misted. Purpose can ride money, but money can't steer, she said. He nodded. Partnership sealed. Later they inspected coop. Big red preened, chest swelling. Wind quieted. Rooster unleashed full-throated crow ricocheting through icy air. Maddie laughed aloud. The old sentinel reclaiming dawn schedule. Darius tipped imaginary hat. Welcome back, maestro. Behind them, Grace nickered softly. Snow tapered to gentle flurry, stars emerging one by one. Maddie whispered, storm's tail wagging goodbye. But Darius pointed at horizon where clouds still stewed. Let's not unsaddle yet. Third dawn broke clear, sunlight refracting off snow into a blinding metallic sea, drifts carved sculptures around fence posts, each shimmer a reminder of night's fragility. The ranch exhaled, water lines intact, generator still purring, but radio crackled. County roads remained closed, supplies dwindled. They rationed hay, melted snow for gray water, and scheduled chores with military precision. In lull, Maddie dug through Clarence's storm notebook, ideas he'd jotted for emergencies. One page bore a doodle of sled with ski runners built from scrap lumber and old gate hinges. Inspiration struck. She gathered Darius, Leo, and Amani. They scavenged barn loft for planks, built 2 cargo sleds in 3 hours, wiring rubber stall mat handles. With Blossom and Midnight harnessed, they set out delivering surplus hay to elderly rancher couple whose cattle bawled, forlorn across ravine. Journey tested both rigs. Ice cracked, sled runners groaned. Yet the mission succeeded. Warmth in old couples' eyes, igniting internal fireplaces in crew hearts. On return, they discovered County Plow Clearing Main Road, a literal way out, and symbol of storm's end. Sun melted snow quickly. Water sluiced down gullies, saturating earth, leaving behind slick mud. Ranchers call it black gumbo, ground so slippery it births humility. Maddie and Darius trudged through, checking fence integrity, several posts loosened, needing resets. That evening, Walker family hosted impromptu gumbo feast to thank rescuers. Barn smelled of roux, sausage, and melting ice. Blues guitarist from Austin plucked strings. Children turned mechanical bull on slow speed giggling. Darius danced with Amani between hay bales. Maddie clapped beat, remembering Clarence's two-step. Leo proposed toast. To storms, because they ask the question, and to neighbors, because they answer. Mason jars clinked. Darius added, to land that grants second chances as long as you shovel the first ones. Laughter cascaded. Later, Maddie caught Darius staring at full brisket romping near stall door. Remember when you wanted marble floors? She teased. He swiped mud from cheek. Marble's too slick. Hooves prefer dirt. Under lantern glow, they reviewed apprenticeship timeline. 5-year plan culminating in Darius taking operations helm while Maddie retained storytelling and wisdom roles. Amani offered to expand vet services into on-site clinic. Maddie produced Envelope, Clarence's letter titled If Snow Ever Falls. She read aloud, instructions for making snow ice cream, encouragement to host community bonfire, reminder that storms humble but also level fields. Tears shimmered across faces. They fetched milk, sugar, vanilla, and clean snow from shaded drift, churning into icy treat. Everyone ate, sweetness numbing tongues, reviving child hearts. As final act of Storm Saga, they led Grace and Blossom to Ridge as sunset blazed, reflecting off lingering snow patches. Darius released brand-burned wooden sign they'd made. Snowmelt carried it downstream, symbol of letting land spread story beyond property lines. Night settled without generator rumble, grid power restored. Stars glittered. Big Red crowed with inexplicable timing, as if announcing chapter close. Maddie scribbled archive entry. Storm chiseled us. Wind etched names, snow taught patience. We did not conquer weather. We cooperated. Legacy stands on sled runners made of gate hinges. She placed pen down, listened to silence thick with gratitude, then climbed stairs. In her dream, Clarence tipped hat at boundary between snow and grass, whispering, "Careful, Maddie May, spring arrives fast, ride ready." She woke smiling. Downstairs, Darius cradled coffee, reviewing course syllabus on livestock nutrition. He heard her footsteps and asked, "Ready for lambing season?" She laughed. "One storm at a time, son, but yes, let's ride." The ranch slept, scars of blizzard already feeding roots for spring wildflowers, and the rooster, self-appointed historian, stood alert under waxing moon, prepared to crow truth into any sky, stormy or clear. Maddie Jackson woke to the rooster duet she never thought possible. Big Red's gritty tenor answered by a bright, reckless soprano from Elijah. The speckled cockerel Darius had brought back from Colorado as a joke and then refused to cull when it turned charming. Their overlapping crows cut the lavender dawn into ribbons, tugging Maddie from dreams of ice storms into the warm hush of a late February morning. The blizzard scars had melted into puddles that mirrored a sky washed bone clean. Only the gumbo, mud, and downed branches proved the storm had ever passed. Inside the farmhouse kitchen, the calendar Clarence had nailed beside the pantry sat on March's threshold. A scribble in Maddie's handwriting circled the second Saturday. Barn wedding, 4 p.m. Beneath, Darius had penciled smaller script. Community open day of 10 a.m. She traced the words, feeling their weight. A marriage vowed under her roof and a public welcome to land once hidden by grief. 2 seeds that could bloom or mildew depending on preparation. She brewed chicory, sweetened with ribbon cane syrup, and stepped onto the porch. Darius was already there, leaning against the railing, watching Elijah practice crow number 3. His shoulders looked broader since winter, not from gym vanity, but from hay bales and decisions. He greeted her with a tilt of enamel mug. "Mom, forecast says 70 and clear through wedding day. I'd call that favor." She raised her cup in silent toast to the absent Clarence, the man who used to barter prayers with weather like a riverboat gambler. They walked the perimeter, checking that snowmelt hadn't undercut fence posts. Bluebonnets nursed buds along ditches. Mesquite tips showed lime green promise. At the south pasture gate, they met Dr. Amani hand-grazing Grace. The mare's near-colic ordeal had bonded woman and horse like solder. Now Grace followed her vet without lead rope, muzzle seeking pockets for peppermint. Amani gestured toward barn. "I've set up vaccination chutes. The city guests might faint, but the calves can't wait for style." Her smile flashed playful confidence. Maddie's heart warmed at how seamlessly the vet's steady cadence synced with the ranch's rhythm. Back at the house, they reviewed the guest list. 20 relatives and old Chicago friends would arrive Thursday. People who still thought ranch meant Airbnb aesthetics. Darius proposed the oak planting pledge. Each guest must set roots, literally, before receiving a seat card. Maddie nodded approval. Trees outlive hashtags. To prepare, Darius drove to Fredericksburg Nursery for 50 bur oak saplings. While he was gone, Maddie met with Walker matriarch Ina to assign potluck responsibilities. Ina's collard greens, Leo's Colorado chili, Maple's surprisingly decent skillet cornbread, the city influencer now returning as volunteer. Jessamine, the photographer, would document the day, but had agreed to swap her DSLR for shovel until sweat dampened her bangs. Ty, newly fascinated with droneless reality, offered DJ services, but only after mucking at least one stall. That afternoon, another truck arrived. This one, Chicago plates and back seats stacked with newspapers. Out stepped Lorraine and Howard Barnes, Clarence's fraternity brother, and his gregarious wife. Lorraine greeted Maddie with perfume cloud and wide eyes at mud. "Honey, the Tribune featured you in Black Heritage Lifestyles." She waved paper, headline, Hill Country Renaissance, the Black-owned ranch trend. Center spread photo, Darius atop mechanical bull, Maddie in background laughing. Trend? Maddie rolled the word on tongue like gravel. She thanked Lorraine, folded paper under arm. They served iced tea on porch. Lorraine marveled at sunrise views. Howard discussed property values booming along Texas wine trail. Their polite wonder carried undertones. Perhaps we should invest. Maddie listened, smiled polite, mind calculating. When Darius returned with saplings, dust halo around truck, she caught his eye, flicked gaze to newspaper. He grimaced. They'd handle that conversation later. Before sunset, Maddie convened house meeting. Barnes couple, Jessamine, Ty, Maple, and 3 second cousins who'd arrived early. She outlined oak planting pledge and stall mucking rota. Silence fell like slack rope. Ty raised hand. "We thought rehearsal dinner." Maddie cut gently. "Dinner tastes better after shovel calories." Darius backed her, recounting blizzard rescue stories. Maple, remembering llama spit initiation, nodded. The others murmured assent. Entitlement retreated, albeit sulkily. Next morning dawned pink as grapefruit flesh. Work gloves lay on porch rails sorted by size, saplings soaked in tubs. Big Red and Elijah crowed shift change. Maddie organized teams, tree planters, fence painters, stall muckers. Lorraine attempted to preserve manicure with latex gloves. They tore by second shovel. Yet by noon her laugh rang authentic as tin bell. Jessamine photographed calloused hands gripping shovel handles, posting roots before ribbons. The post trended modestly. An algorithmic wink Maddie tolerated because pictures showed sweat-sheened smiles rather than curated wanderlust. By evening, 50 saplings stood soldier straight along driveway, each tagged with guest's name. Darius hammered final stake, wiped brow streaked with soil, and declared, "Our forest's birthday." Howard, hair grayer from sun glare, patted post. "I can respect asset that grows slowly," he conceded. Maddie smiled. Lesson absorbed. That night, communal supper spread across picnic tables under strings of Edison bulbs. The newspaper article resurfaced. Maddie addressed it head-on. Trend dies when hype moves. This ranch roots in service. She invited anyone who wished to stay long-term to agree to weekly chore roster. No takers yet, though Maple asked for application form. In quiet after dishes, Darius found Maddie on porch reading Clarence's branding journal. He showed her message from Austin news outlet requesting wedding coverage. She shook head. "Some things bloom private, press tramples petals." He nodded, drafted polite decline. Stars burned diamond hard. Comet Leonid, forecast for next week, had begun its approach. NASA promised visible tail near equinox. Maddie toyed with idea of meteor shower wedding send-off, rings on comet's tail. She mapped timing, vows at dusk, blessing at blue hour, dancing until Leonid streak. She whispered plan to Darius. He grinned, texting Amani, got heavenly fireworks lined up. They turned in unaware that final obstacle, county clerk mix-up on conservation easement, would surface with sunrise, demanding swift justice before they could walk down sawdust aisle. Morning brought a county-stamped envelope slid under the porch door. Maddie's stomach flipped. Government paper seldom delivered love letters. She unfolded notice. Clerical error in servitude filing. Survey overlay missing notary seal. Without correction, within 72 hours, easement would enter review limbo, exposing acreage to development bids. Wedding in 48 hours, guests sleeping in bunkhouse, and she faced bureaucratic ghosts that could unravel months of healing. She called Patris, still practicing law in Houston, but counsel to ranch. Patris identified solution, re-sign plat before licensed surveyor obtained seal, courier to county seat by 3 p.m. today. Else office closed for weekend until Tuesday, past deadline. Surveyor Walker Sr. was qualified but currently repairing his cattle chute 12 miles away. Maddie relayed message to Darius, who immediately saddled midnight. Fastest routes Arroyo Trail. Rough, Maddie warned. He cinched girth. Rough matches our brand. He galloped off, dust plume trailing. Meanwhile, Maddie rallied volunteers, Lorraine and Jessamine to print maps, Ty to phone courier, Maple to calm understandably nervous bride Amani. Big Red patrolled yard clucking orders nobody understood, but everyone obeyed. At Arroyo's edge, Darius leaned forward, letting midnight navigate shale. Memories flashed of Chicago freeways, smooth but ruthless, and he felt gratitude for this cracked earth teaching balance. He found Walker Sr. beneath splintered chute, welding sparks flying. The surveyor listened, wiped sweat, tossed torch aside. Let's notarize, he said, pulling steel tape from belt. They measured boundary stakes again, saplings now markers of new line. Walker signed. Darius notarized with portable stamp borrowed from Patris's document kit. Papers secured in leather folio he mounted midnight for sprint to Courier Depot. Back at ranch, decorator from Austin arrived with silk bunting and floral arches. Lorraine tried explaining minimalist aesthetic, but decorator insisted on elevated Western chic. Maddie, stress-taut, nearly snapped when faux cowhide aisle runner unrolled across barn floor. She took deep breath, remember barbed wire analogy, and guided decorator outside, pointing to live oaks heavy with natural Spanish moss. Nature already designed our chapel, she said. Decorator, reading steel in her stare, packed runner away. Darius returned just as courier van rolled into yard. Folio exchanged. Driver sped off with deadline cushion of 90 minutes. Celebration rippled. Maddie hugged son hard. Exhaustion painted his face, but eyes glowed. Asset that grows slowly, he quipped, echoing Howard. Afternoon dedicated to rehearsal. Pastor Jenkins arrived, voice honey over gravel road. He led couple through vows beneath oak, children tossing imaginary petals. Big Red and Elijah perched on corral fence, audience of 2. At cue for rings, Elijah launched crow, timing perfect comedic relief. Evening potluck triple-sized out-of-town cousins, Walker clan Sangre volunteers. Darius delivered Last Supper as single-man toast, thanked community and mother for teaching me to cash sweat. Cheers rose. Amani answered, promising vet clinic expansion and baby goats for Easter, eliciting squeals from children. After dusk rehearsal bonfire, Maddie pulled Darius aside. Tomorrow I hand headlines to you and Amani. I'll just keep sunrise. He squeezed her hand. We'll share both. They watched flames lick star-freckled sky until scent of mesquite shifted to night jasmine, but serenity lasted short. At midnight, Grace whinnied frantic. A quick check revealed broken latch, storm remnant they'd overlooked. She'd bruised fetlock. Panic threatened wedding ride plan. Amani wanted to enter ceremony side saddle on Grace. Dr. Amani spent early hours cold-hosing leg, reassuring bride's self it would heal. Darius stayed, whispering, "Even comets curve, plans can too." Grace settled. Injury mild. They catnapped 2 hours. Dawn painted clouds peach. County clerk emailed, "Documents accepted, easement recorded, congratulations." Maddie exhaled weight of whole market crashing, tears sudden. Darius held her. "Now we marry land to future," he said. Wedding day unfurled like a slow-motion rodeo, bucking details yet choreographed joy. By 10, community open day commenced. Visitors from Austin, lured by social posts, parked cars along fence, trading city shoes for loaner boots. Jessamine and Maple led Muckastall Challenge. Each participant earned wooden token inscribed "Sweat Witness." Lorraine directed oak sapling watering ceremony. Thai DJ Ed, vinyl blues sets, generator humming. At 1, barn doors closed for transformation. Volunteers swept sawdust aisles, strung fairy lights, hung floral hoops of bluebonnet, Indian paintbrush, and rosemary. Noon sun pierced slats, creating holy beams on rough timber. Maddie dressed in deep plum gown, silver hair braided with leather cord Clarence once used on reins. In mirror, she saw wrinkles as topographic proof of storms. Lorraine pinned corsage of wild sage. "You look like morning after rain," she said. Maddie kissed her cheek. Outside, Darius wiped dust from black waistcoat. Leo adjusted boutonniere, a single yellow sunflower. "Remember to breathe," he advised. Darius nodded, but lungs felt full of comet dust. Guests gathered, filling hay bale pews, murmurs hush as Pastor Jenkins stepped to makeshift altar. 2 cedar posts supporting brand-burned sign Jackson & Son Heritage Ranch. Big Red strutted aisle once, approving, before Jessamine scooped him to perch on fence. Music, Walker Blues Band blending into soft gospel, rose as Amani appeared, astride Grace, fetlock wrapped in decorative silk. Gasps rippled. Mare walked steady, coat gleaming. Amani dismounted gracefully, handing reins to Kareem, now confident stable hand. She approached Darius, dress of ivory lace cut for movement, pockets hidden for practicality, vows spoken simple. To till soil together, mend fences literal and figurative, love in drought and flood. Rings, hammer-forged silver bands with braided copper from old fence wire, were blessed by Pastor Jenkins and community chorus of Amen. They kissed. Barn erupted in shouts, harmonica trills, claps echoing rafters. Reception spilled outside. Mechanical bull became photo booth draped with banner "Ride, Don't Scroll." Sweet potato pies lined table, Maddie's, Darius's, Lorraine's experimental bourbon variant. Kids chased baby goats in pens, evidence of forthcoming clinic. At blue hour, Maddie clinked spoon to mason jar, calling for quiet. She told story of Clarence drawing Barnes on prescription pads, of losing him, of Big Red's crow that stitched loneliness until people answered. She presented newlyweds' ledger Clarence started, blank pages ahead for them. Tears glinted, applause gentle as dusk. Night settled, temperature mild. Tie-dimmed floodlights. Guests lay on quilts outside barn. Darius held Amani's hand. Maddie rocked Elijah Clarence against chest. Walker guitarist plucked minor chords as pastor recited Psalm 8 about heaven's work of fingers. At 10:42 p.m., Leonid comet arced, tail copper blue searing sky, gasps unified, phones forgotten. Ty whispered, "No filter beats that." Children squealed. Elijah cooed at light. Maddie felt grandson's tiny heartbeat sync with rooster crow from distant coop. Elijah the bird announcing cosmic show. Comet faded, but all lingered like baritone hum. Blues band struck up lively riff. Dancing resumed on packed dirt floor. Maddie watched Darius twirl a mani, their laughter mingling with fiddle. She felt Clarence's arm slip around waist, memory, not ghost, whispering, "Job well done, Maddie May." She answered aloud, "On to sunrise." Near midnight, volunteers carried leftover pies to bunkhouse, lanterns flickering along path. Maddie and Darius walked fence line, ensuring gates latched. Stars glittered. Distant coyotes celebrated union with their own corral. They paused by saplings, each now staked upright, leaves unfurling. Darius touched tag bearing Lorraine's name. "These will shade wedding anniversaries," he murmured. Maddie smiled. "If roots run as deep as your vows." Back on porch, she logged final archive volume. Comet wrote rings across sky, we wrote ours beneath. Oaks planted, easement sealed. Trend may fade, but sweat and song stay. Roosters teach dawn, children teach second dawns. She slid pen between pages, closed book, and carried grandson indoors. Big Red and Elijah duet crooned lullaby outside. The ranch exhaled. Circles complete yet opening outward like ripples each time somebody chooses shovel over scroll. Maddie placed sleeping child in crib, crafted from reclaimed fence boards, kissed his brow. "Welcome home, little writer," she whispered. Tomorrow chores would begin at pink sunrise. She'd be there, boots on, ready to teach truth to any who came. But tonight, under Comet's fading memory, she allowed herself stillness, knowing land was held not by deeds alone, but by hands willing to serve. She stepped onto porch once more. Darius and Amani leaned on railing, foreheads touching, silhouettes framed by final lantern. Maddie joined them. 3 generations watched as rooster shadows danced on wall. Echo of dawn to come, sustaining melody no camera could fully capture. And somewhere above, Leonid raced beyond sight, tail still scattering unseen rings as if blessing earth that had finally learned to hold its own light.